How can we celebrate when there's a Lib Dem in the channel?
Welcome to another special edition of Political Dregs. I am Calvin Robinson. I'm in the constituency of Watford. With me is Hamish Hunter in the Camden side of Hampstead and Kilburn constituency. In the Brent side is Joel Davidson. And
Hello.
in Hammersmith is Amir Sajadi. Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
We've just had election. We've just had polling day. We've had a landslide Conservative majority. I've never seen anything like this in my life. The whole country's gone blue. What's happening?
Wait, I mean, Calvin, you say you've never seen anything like it in your life. I mean, I literally haven't. I was born in 1992. So 1992.
I also wasn't alive last time this happened. Thank you very much.
Well, but, you know, I mean, I remember when Cameron became Prime Minister in 2010 under the coalition. I was like, oh my god, I never thought a Conservative could be Prime Minister. I remember when he won his tiny majority in 2015. I was like, what? But this is like a Conservative Prime Minister with an 80-seat majority. I've literally never seen that. I mean,
it's quite extraordinary. I was born in '79, so yeah. This is something that I will tell my daughter, grandchildren about without a doubt. It's absolutely historic, an incredible achievement, and we're all stunned. But well done, Boris. And I've got the
I'm not
the customs union Prosecco out.
I'm not stunned because I remember the '97 election and Tony Blair swept the floor.
I was in middle school when that happened. I barely remember what that was. But, I mean, we've got so many Conservative members of Parliament now. A lot of them good friends of ours. We've got some really good people in there. We're actually going to get Brexit. It's going to happen.
Yes,
absolutely, without a doubt.
When the exit polls came in, I was like, what?
But look, I mean, I just when I saw the exit poll, the episode we did last night, I said I was nervous, I was concerned, but we talked about how the Lib Dems hadn't really, done that well, and I've been saying that I was worried about relying on all these Labour Leave seats, but that has paid off. Yeah. But look, the problem is people wanted to leave the European Union. I mean, how difficult is that to understand? People want to leave the European Union, and they've said it again and again and again, and people have been ignoring them. Labour have been ignoring them. The Metropolitan Liberal elite, People's Vote people have just been ignoring them, and they have just said it over and over again.
Yeah, and I hold hands up. I underestimated the innate patriotism of the British people, and very happy to be have been corrected. I think it was a wonderful endorsement of this country, and especially a British jury as well. So a great positive for the Jewish community. So wonderful.
And every single one of those bloody MPs that jumped ship, those anti-democratic ones, they've all been wiped out. We've cleared the swamp.
And the people are serious.
Except I would say in that respect, big hands up to Ivan Lewis in Bury South, who was one of those. He wasn't like the Change UK types, but he stood as an independent, and he probably cost Labour a seat in Bury South.
For him.
Yeah, he lost his deposit, but the Conservatives took that seat. He's a proud Jewish member of Parliament, and he's probably quite happy with that.
My only concern as a unionist is the situation in Northern Ireland and potentially Scotland. Yeah. Northern Ireland, we now have a majority of MPs there who are nationalists, who wish we would like a united Ireland. That is a great concern for me as a unionist. And of course, on a personal note, very sad that Tom Elliott, my friend, missed out by 57 votes in Fermanagh and South Tyrone, which would have, of course, made all the difference. So we really are, I think, on the cusp of seismic changes in Northern Ireland, which I think is a concern. But hopefully that shouldn't take the gloss off a wonderful victory for Boris. And I hope he's, of course, going to retain true to his word as a great Conservative and unionist.
And he started his speech off saying, I am a one-nation Prime Minister. He's sticking to that. He's going to unite everyone. I think I don't want to bog down too much on Northern Ireland and Scotland because it is a bit negative and we should be celebrating. But that is going to be the cause going forward. And I think we've got Dominic Cummings and we've got Boris Johnson. These are the guys that can actually work on this as the next big thing.
Rejoice, as a certain other Prime Minister said. It's wonderful news.
Absolutely.
Well, if you let me speak... the Lib Dems aren't anti-democratic. They executed a legal tried to campaign for what they believed in within the remits of Parliament and within the remits of legislation. They didn't go out in the streets. They didn't throw stones. They didn't break.
No one's saying they're breaking the law. We're saying they're undemocratic. There's a big difference. The British people clearly wanted to leave over and over. They voted for it in 2 general elections, an EU referendum and an EU election.
Yeah, but
it's very clear.
We know that there are. We know. I think to be fair to Amir,
don't be fair to Amir. You're always fair to Amir.
Well,
join the Lib Dems.
Now we've been very fair. We're reaching out.
You have to be balanced.
But look. To be fair, there are a certain number of people, and let's not forget the Lib Dems increased their share of the vote. There are people who want to stay, who supported the revoke policy, but I think it's the way that the Lib Dems approached their campaign that they did not capitalise on that. They spent a lot of time piling up votes in Esher and Walton, and that was closer than I thought it was going. Would have thought it was going to be, but Dominic Raab held on, and then they missed out on seats like Joe Swinson and Dunbartonshire. And last night I said, it's the only SNP gain I'm looking forward to, and I don't like. And it happened, and it was still quite a shock when it happened. But to be fair, I think the problem, and Amir can talk more about it, but is that they didn't really focus that message on the right places.
No, clearly, yeah.
Look, they have a strong opinion about remaining in the EU because they believe, we believe, that it is better for the country.
But it should have worked in more than 11 seats, Amir. There should be way more than that message.
Just let me make my point, and then
sure
you can reject. Look, they had a strong point of view, just like Nigel Farage had a strong point of view, and they, within the remits of our system, which isn't perfect, and it's very obvious that our system isn't perfect because the Lib Dems increased their voter share, they increased the numbers. Look, the Lib Dems had a point of view. They had a strong point of view. They believed that remaining in the EU was better for this country economically. They had issues with the way the referendum was done. I'm not saying that they were right. They obviously participated in the referendum happening in the first place. So obviously they played their part. Okay?
And they wanted a referendum. Nick Clegg wanted one.
That's fine. Okay, we all accept that. But
do you think that? Do you think Joe Swinson made a mistake by basically supporting the vote to have a general election?
No, I don't think she made a mistake because Parliament was stuck and they needed to be unstuck, and we had to find a way out of it. What I'm saying is, I don't believe that the Lib Dems are anti-democratic. I've heard that so many times on the doorstep, and when I try to have a conversation with a person and try to explain to them, look, the reason why I'm on your doorstep at 9 p.m. in the rain, knocking on your door, trying to canvass you, is because I believe in democracy. And this is the conversation that we had yesterday, Joel. And then for them to say you're anti-democratic because you want to revoke. Now, I wasn't part of the Lib Dems. When I joined the Lib Dems, there was no revoke policy. Now that came, and what am I going to do? To leave the Lib Dems? I can disagree with the policy, but I'm still going to try and pursue a core values I believe in.
Yeah, I mean, you did very well. I mean, you did have an impact in London. As I said, what the surprise was really the way that wasn't able to translate into winning more seats because that viewpoint is fairly widely held certainly in cities, and so the disappointment for the Lib Dems was not to be able to translate that into more seats clearly.
The Lib Dems increased their vote share. They increased the number of votes and they lost the seat. So when you're talking about democracy and when you're talking about democratic systems which represent people and represent the electorate, then I've already said this before, that there is a problem with our electoral system. It isn't up to date. It isn't modern. It doesn't reflect the true share of people's ideas and values.
But we all know the system that we were campaigning in, and I do think that the Lib Dems will need to have a look and think, well, I don't think anyone expected them to be net down one seat, and you can talk about individual seats here and there, but it is remarkable that there are no Lib Dem seats in the West Country, and it is remarkable that they they, you know, as you say, lost seats, you know, that like Joe Winston's own seat that they really shouldn't have been losing.
And this,
just before and I think it goes to the same point that we've been discussing about the Brexit Party. Now, the Brexit Party could have denied Boris the majority, but you know, for one reason or another, you know, the Conservative vote, you know, was strong enough to hold on. But if you look at places like Yvette Cooper's seat and in Hartlepool, you know, I don't believe that every single Brexit Party vote would have gone Conservative if the Brexit Party hadn't stood.
Yeah, but Hamish, you're moving on to another point, and I want to address what Amir was saying.
There's a strong argument to say that, you know, Boris could have been looking at a majority of maybe 100, i.e. taking 10 more seats off Labour. You know, if the Brexit Party had been a bit more focused. However, if the Lib Dems had been a bit more focused, maybe he'd be looking at a majority of, you know, a smaller majority. So I think both of those parties have really got to look and think about, you know, think exactly what they've done.
Yeah, we've mentioned that before, but it isn't the lack of focus that lost the Lib Dems this election. It's because they are undemocratic. And now to come back to Amir's point, to refute him, he said we're making this case, this point of view for the economy, saying we think we're better in the EU. But that's an argument for the EU referendum. And they're not arguing to have another referendum. They're arguing to revoke the democratic decision of the British people. Yeah. And I think that's for the last... Now, I'll let you speak. So that's for the last 3.5 years, Parliament have been frustrating that democratic result of the British people voting in a referendum. That the public have got frustrated at Parliament frustrating the results, and that's why on the doorstep so many people are saying you guys are undemocratic. Is because we've made it very clear in 4 big votes that we want to leave the European Union. So to go against that is going against democracy.
Yeah, people were really fed up of the way that Parliament had. We hadn't just bloody left. That was really what it came down to.
People were fed up. I received a lot of those comments on the doorstep. So I'm not denying what you're saying. I mean, I accept that people were fed up, and that's why Conservatives won an 80 majority in Parliament. I accept that, okay? And I accept that the Liberal Democrat position wasn't clear. For me, at the first, it was like a final say vote. Then it was revoked. Then they're backing a second referendum. I didn't really understand what they were saying. From one minute to the next, it seemed to be changing, and it was a shifting position. And I don't think that message was clear. I don't think the electorate understood what the Lib Dems were trying to say, actually. But to say that it's anti-democratic when you're using Parliament, the system that we have,
I'll back you up on that.
To get a result through legally, I mean,
but I'm not talking about breaking the law. I'm talking about going against the democratic will of the British people. There's two different things.
I'll stick up for Amir here. I think he's right. It wasn't undemocratic because they did call for the general election. I think all we saw was a proxy second referendum, and how decisive a Leave win would have been had we ever had a second referendum. To be fair, so.
And I think a lot of people persuaded themselves in London and other places that people had changed their minds, and they hadn't.
Yeah, well, exactly. This was a national campaign, as predicted on this show several weeks ago. This was a one-issue national campaign. We've seen overwhelming evidence of that here. I'm very pleased to see a lot of Conservative candidates winning seats, but I don't think this was really about individual candidates or campaigning. I think people voted in the Conservative box on the ballot paper and on this one single issue, a unique confluence of circumstances of historic significance. But
so what does that mean for campaigning going forward, Joel?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just think we're all seasoned campaigners. We know it can make a difference. I mean, obviously, my success was in local elections, where I do still think it makes a difference campaigning, and I still think you can certainly make a difference at ward level if you individually know the 1,500, 2,000 voters you're going to get. That's fine, but I think a national that having that impact on a constituency we've seen is really been overstated if there's an overriding national issue, because people were inundated with information on Brexit. They knew exactly what their position was, and they knew that there was one chance to cast an opinion on that, which they've done overwhelmingly yesterday.
Well, I think that's true, but I also think that there was a lot, especially in London, where I think Labour probably, obviously they piled up votes in good places, but I think it's always difficult to know on polling day, because people get very excited and stuff. But there were stories about people, saying, "Oh, let's all Labour pile into Uxbridge. Boris is about to lose his seat. We need people there. Piling into places, and not going to Chipping, where the Conservatives clung on, not going to IDS's seat, where he, managed to.
So they were out in IDS's seat. There was a lot of people out there.
No, they tried really hard for IDS's seat.
But there was, not going necessarily in Kensington, and there was a whole Emma Dent Code was on Radio 4 being like, "Thanks very much, Sam Guimau, you've split the vote. Thanks very much."
I don't think you can blame Sam Guimau. Let me tell you why, Hamish. Because
I don't blame Sam Guimau. I don't blame him.
because
he's entitled to stand for Parliament if he wants to.
Look, the Labour activists in Chelsea and Fulham, an email went round. They were told to campaign in Kensington, and in the last week of the election, they were still campaigning in Chelsea and Fulham. Most of the tactical voting websites suggested, and the recent polling, 27th of November, suggested that from YouGov suggested that Lib Dems were second at about 30%. But they were still campaigning. They were still campaigning, even though they knew that they weren't going to win or they couldn't win that seat. And they could have gone to Kensington. They could have got another 150 votes for the Labour candidate there. And then we wouldn't be talking about this right now. But, the problem is that Labour are just all over the place. They don't know what they're doing. They say one thing, they do something else.
But I will say it's amazing that the Conservatives took Kensington back. That's fantastic.
Well, it's not, well.
That was a highlight.
It was great, but I mean, it should never have been lost.
It's Kensington, yeah.
What's amazing, and I know it's not Kensington, the old Kensington.
Well, it should have been lost. Have you forgotten Grenfell Tower Fire? Of course, it should have been lost. That was disastrous. The Conservatives should have definitely lost that seat after what happened at Grenfell. Yes.
No,
I grew up in North Kensington. I grew up in a council flat next to Grenfell, and the Conservative administration in Kensington and Chelsea was terrible. I'm sorry, Hamish.
Well, look. Well, first of all, I mean, the Grenfell issue and the fires are a complete tragedy, and looks like there's systematic issues with how that was allowed to be in that situation. When I say it shouldn't have been lost, it's the sort of seat, even though it's a London seat, that the Conservative Party should not be losing if it is to form a majority government. That's what I mean by it. I appreciate there's special circumstances there, but what I think is just simply extraordinary is there are so many seats in the northeast particularly, but also in the northwest, that just have never returned Conservative MPs before.
No, and they don't have an activist base there. They don't have membership, associations. It's an entirely national thing.
National swing.
Yeah, and you look at it's Andy Burnham's former seat in Lee, Caroline Flint's seat in Don Valley. 1922 was the last time it wasn't Labour. Bishop Auckland, Sedgefield, Blythe Valley. All these places. It's just extraordinary.
What does this mean for activists going forward? Is that we've seen now what an impact you can have
pointless.
Just without well, pointless is one way of describing it, but I don't think it's pointless. There must be a way of using activists in a more useful way than we'll have to think of using them differently, campaigning in a different way, because I really can't see how well, certainly future elections may not be about an issue such as this, but I think now we've seen that how many seats you can win without having any activist base. It's going to have a real big impact on the way that we think of associations and members going forward.
It also
impresses me. Sorry, Hamish. What impresses me about Boris Johnson is that he always sticks to the script, or he tries to stick to the script, and he makes the choice very clear. He frames the choice, and so voters are very clear about what they are going to vote for.
Well, I think Labour will really must be regretting the sort of Keir Starmer position of frustrating the even possibility of a compromise with May in the summer, last summer. Obviously, I've taken a lot of flack from the two hardline Brexiteers for supporting the Theresa May deal in the past, but I think we could have been out for a year by now, and Labour showed really bad faith that summer when they essentially turned down every possibility of coming to a further compromise, which Calvin and Hamish may not have liked, but which would have had cross-party appeal and would have meant that we'd left the European Union on a cross-party basis. And I think they must really be regretting that now.
And what's interesting,
and
Joel,
I'm pleased to see that, because Keir Starmer was extremely smug in the way that he defied the will of the people.
What's interesting is that Corbyn's ego was so massive that there was an opportunity for some sort of unity government and a vote of no confidence to eject Boris.
Yeah, that was later on when things were really tight. But yeah, I mean, Corbyn was incapable of compromising or acting in the national interest, clearly, and voters saw that.
What I'm fascinated by is, where's Labour's route back to power? I mean, an 80 seat majority. They've got 200 seats, basically, give or take. Where's their route back? They've got London, absolutely. They've kept fairly strong in South Wales, actually, and they've got
the cities, Manchester,
Leeds, they've got the inner cities, but their rural strongholds of Yorkshire and the northeast gone. Their rural sort of strongholds in the sort of Lancashire, northwest seats have been completely, the blue walls completely decimated. West Midlands, I mean, it's just nothing, and they are nowhere in the south of England, and they,
as long as Boris delivers, of course.
Yes, well, yes, but and of course in Scotland they've got one seat, they've got an Edinburgh seat, and it's just
I know.
They have got a job of work to actually come back and get a route back, and if the Conservative Party, and I've made my concerns about this new alliance and this dependence on Labour Leave, white working class voters, but I was very worried that the Conservative Party wouldn't hold on to its traditional voters, but actually, although it was tight in some of those places in Esher and in the southwest, there are no Liberals in the southwest, right? There are no, apart from a couple of gains like in Putney, they held on in those traditional, more classic Tory things. So if Boris can have that coalition, that is a framework for establishing electoral dominance for decades.
Like Japan, it'll be like the Liberal Democrats in Japan. The Tories in power for 50 years.
Which would be
imagine that.
I think you guys are being a little bit over optimistic about the future. The Conservative Party still has to deliver on many of the promises. They have to invest heavily into the north, and the people have to feel the difference.
These votes,
which is good. Loaned. It's good that this has happened. We need to invest in them.
These votes have been loaned, and they need to show. They need to deliver on that loan. Let's see. Boris is now can do literally whatever he wants. He's earned that right.
How long do you think it will be till we sell the NHS?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. 45% of people apparently voted to sell the NHS. I mean, I made that point. You've got to be very careful how you characterise your opponents, because if they do their policies, but if you then lose quite badly, then that can look bad.
But this is the thing that's got me.
One Liberal Democrat, a former Tory councillor in Camden on Twitter, who became a Lib Dem, very very pro European.
Do you really want to hear what he had to say?
Yeah, he shout out to Andrew Marshall there. He said to me on Twitter, the campaign to rejoin the EU starts in January. I mean, really? Is that where the Liberals go? That's extraordinary. I mean,
we spent far too much time worrying about what people in Camden think, to be honest.
He's welcome to spend his weekend that way if he wants to do that.
He's off the ball, really, because...
What are the Liberals going to do?
No, listen, even today, I honestly, I listened to Jo Stinson and I was very disappointed because I didn't sense humility in her tone. And,
but look, the reality is now we've got to see some policy changes as a result of leaving the EU that are positive. So he's going to have to deliver on things like the free ports, and he's going to have to show some gaining of sovereignty in certain areas. He's going to have to show an ability to change policy that doesn't have to mean that following EU rules. Buying British, changing procurement policy, things like that. He needs to show these sort of retail offers to keep this coalition of voters. And if he does, hats off to him, because that would be
absolutely, absolutely. And I think if the Lib Dems or any other sort of section of the political class decided to sort of advocate a rejoin position, I mean, this election should be a warning sign. And we can argue about the sort of theoretical elements of it, if it's democratic or not. And frankly, if the Lib Dems had won, then the Lib Dems would have been entitled to do what they want. But Jo Swinson turned up. She rocked up. She saw that we'd voted to leave. She said bollocks to Brexit, and the people said bollocks to you, love.
True, very true.
And even Caroline Lucas felt that was.
It's too extreme for Caroline Lucas. You know that you are
extreme for Caroline
King
Lucas.
Loopy.
Well, look, yeah, and I just think, all of this brown nosing of Guy Verhofstadt and wearing these ridiculous T-shirts and this sort of, cozying up to these ridiculous Eurocrats who've annoyed British voters for years. That really got under the skin of British voters, and that's, it's the results are plain to see. People could see that. It was just ridiculous. Guy Verhofstadt, a trumped up Brussels, a trumped up Belgian local council leader, frankly, of that caliber. He gets,
So we've slagged off the Lib Dems and rightly so, but I just want to say something about Labour and anti-Semitism and the Jewish vote. Ruth Smith, Jewish Labour, former Labour MP for Stoke Central, she had a lot of criticism. She was the one that got sort of almost like publicly abused during the Shami Chakrabarti sort of press conference about anti-Semitism like quite a few years ago, and then instead of doing anything about it, Corbyn went over and chatted to the guy that had abused her. I mean, she's faced vile abuse. She and her former colleague in Stoke, Gareth Snell, were very very open. They're the sort of people that went on the TV quite early and said, "Look, we're losing. I'm going to lose." And Smith said, "It's pretty clear. We're the nasty party. We are the racist party now." And what I was really pleased, which is extraordinary. It's extraordinary when you see MPs going up, I've lost, and this is all. But she was like, "We're the racist party." I was really pleased in all three Barnet seats, which have in London, which have big Jewish populations. Historically, there's been a lot of support for the Labour Party amongst the Jewish community. Those seats in Barnet have not been all safe Conservative seats, even though there's that history with Mrs. Thatcher. All three of those Tory MPs increased their majority, and more importantly than that, crushed the Labour vote, as far as I could see. And I was so proud and so happy, and actually, because I'd been sitting thinking, people don't care about the Jews. They're voting for this guy, but actually no. They turned their back on this anti-Semitism, this nasty, pervasive, hate, and I was really pleased with it.
The disgusting spectre of Corbynism banished from British politics forever.
Well, not yet, because this is the. So I think that's fantastic that we've managed to show that we stand up against anti-Semitism in the UK, but it's deeper than that in the Labour Party. I think it has become the nasty party. While I was at the count,
when Jacques Chirac won against the National Front, it's the same sort of victory.
But at the count last night, one of the Labour guys shouted at me, called me an arsehole. We're all there counting, we're all there being part of the democratic process. And this guy, as he chanted away, he was like, "You don't care about child poverty." And I'm like, they've got this moral superiority that they believe so much that they are the only ones that care about anything. They are the only ones that can be compassionate. They don't have a monopoly on compassion.
Yeah, Lily Allen today has been crying on Twitter saying everyone's racist and hates. It's just like.
They need some self-reflection. They need to get over this.
People on Facebook who I went to school with don't know, haven't spoken to years. If you voted Conservative, then please delete me because it's like fuck off. Just like you need to get like these are not people who went out and actually did anything. It's the voters have argued against this. Spectator. I always find it. I was shocked. In 2010 when the Conservatives came into government for the first time, especially in 2015. I saw this spectacle of all these people being like, "Oh my god!" And it's an enjoyable sort of post-match bit of spectators for all of us because it's just pathetic. And actually, I love it because these Pinko Metro, Romani, celeb theatre, London actors come and do all this like, "Oh, you got to vote Labour, you got to vote Labour," and then they get really upset about it when the actual normal, ordinary people say, "Fuck you, love."
Hugh Grant got his absolute.
His arse
an absolute hiding.
Just pathetic. These people are awful.
So
Ken Loach, fuck off.
No, you can't criticise people if they're trying to campaign and
the way that Grant campaigned was disgraceful. He's essentially calling that the vast majority of the British people racist and xenophobes, etc. And they've stood up against him. Because
these people are entertainers. They're here to make us laugh or to make us enjoy a movie. They're not supposed to use their fame to try and influence us to vote for who they think we should vote for. I find that whole thing a bit.
And this idea that
they wonder why they don't win elections when they go, oh, you're all thick, you voted Leave, you voted Tory, you're all thick racist idiots, you don't know what's best for you. I mean, the Guardian's editorial was like, Johnson's using social conservative things to sort of get people to vote against get poor people to vote against their own economic interests. It's like patronising guff of the worst leftist sort, and you wonder why these people don't vote for you, because you then just turn around when they disagree with you and call them thick idiots. I mean, it's just pathetic.
Did you notice they were the last to declare who we should vote for as well? That was the last.
No, because I don't notice what the Guardian do, because I don't read the Guardian. I do shit where I eat.
Well, look, I mean, it's such a massive victory. It almost feels. I mean, the way I've reacted is, this just feels difficult to gloat. As I said, it's just been so overwhelming. It's like
you shouldn't. I mean, look, there's no winners and losers in democracy.
It's like
there clearly are winners and losers in democracy by definition.
Democracy is a process.
Well, quite clearly.
Democracy is a process.
Democracy is not a one-time event, Calvin. Ding, 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 ding.
There are no winners. There are no losers. Democracy always.
There's a winner, the Conservative Party. There's a loser, the Liberal Democrats and the Labour Party. The people are the winners. The people are the winners in this.
Well, we have
Emily Thornbury got up at her camp and was like, "We have not been beaten." I was just thinking,
I'd say you have.
Jesus.
Anyway, look, it's a great victory. What can we say? We're all stunned and elated. Well, three of us are, but all four of us are delighted to see the back of Corbyn. I'm sure we can agree on that.
Okay, look, I'm delighted that the democratic process has.
It's still continuing.
It's continuing, exactly.
But there's certainly I think we've got a lot to cover in future. Will be the way that Boris operates. He's really, as I said, he's got this coalition of voters who he needs to deliver for. He's got to get tough on crime, hasn't he? He's got to
unite the union.
He's got to unite the union. Northern Ireland is the next threat, and Scotland, of course. I mean, what a graceless disgrace Sturgeon was cheering her. The way she cheered like that. Disrespectful and.
I mean, we were cheering, but we were at home in private. She's doing it on TV.
We've kind of been doing that on this podcast, though, haven't we?
But she's got this jumped up title, First Minister, ridiculous. Again, another jumped up council official with a grandiose title, absurd.
But also, we're going to be looking at the Labour Party. The Labour Party is going to get a new leader. Are they going to get a Corbyn somewhat, mould of person, or that'd be interesting to see. I mean, just a couple of we've got just a couple of sort of things for me which are not so positive. Obviously, I completely agree with Joel. Not good. I'm not happy that 3 of the 4 Belfast seats are now in the nationalist interest, and I'd rather see North Down be represented by the Unionists and Fermanagh as well. I'm really not that happy about seeing that weird little squirrel woman Sarah Olney back in Parliament. I thought we'd got rid of her, but she's obviously made her way back. 8,000. You could have used those votes elsewhere. Yeah, no, but fair enough on the woman. I mean, she's obviously done her job. Sad. I'm personally sad to see that go. But also in Scotland, we've got that awful pompous John Nicholson back, who won Auckland South Perthshire off the frankly gorgeous Luke Graham, who I'm certainly going to miss.
All right, well, good for you, HH.
I mean, Johnson's really going to struggle to keep the union together for the first time. Northern Ireland has a nationalist majority.
It's an issue, but I don't think he'll struggle.
Well, it would be a disaster, of course, of epic proportions, and I would be fervently campaigning in both of those referendums, of course, for the union. So that would be another thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So before we go, moment of the night from each of us, Calvin.
Oh God, that was on the spot.
Sorry.
I will say, I'll blow my own trumpet. I will say it's good that I did stand down in Broxtowe because we actually that was a Conservative seat, so that's fantastic that we hold on to that. Anna Soubry is gone, bless her.
Cheerio, love. Spend more time with your bottle of gin.
Great to see Grieve beaten by Joy, of course, in Beaconsfield, and great to see Dominic Grieve go on a pompous arse. So he's gone.
I mean, no, you go.
I mean, I was happy that we came second. I mean, we didn't win, but I was happy that we managed to take
In Chelsea.
In Chelsea and Fulham, we don't have any councillors, so there wasn't really any kind of network or campaigning network or delivery network a couple of months ago, and literally within 5 weeks we've been able to go from 4,500 to 12,000. We've managed to go to second in the constituency. I think that's a good achievement.
Good job.
Yeah, very good. Well done.
For me, it
well.
was Conservatives winning in Sedgefield, Blairsville constituency, just totemic of the whole sort of Boris quake across the north. And if I have to have a second one, getting rid of that awful Emden code is vile, nasty.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's a disgrace. And as I said, the vote of confidence in the Jewish community for me was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And obviously, on a personal note, something I will be eternally grateful to this country for delivering.
But when those exit polls came through as well, and we saw how much of a landslide it could potentially be, that was just
anyone
amazing,
actually believe those exit polls? When
I was taking it with a pinch of salt. Like this can't be true.
Huge kudos to the polling industry.
Oh yeah, they work again
extremely well.
Well, no, but let's be look. John Curtis, who oversees the exit poll. I mean,
he's the cleverest man in the country.
They know what they're doing. Exit polls are not opinion polls. They know what they're doing with exit polls. They've done this a long time. Yeah. It went horribly wrong in 1992. They didn't quite get it right in 2015. But I just thought if they're saying 86-seat Tory majority, it's not going to be unparliament. It might be. It might be a 40-seat Tory majority, I guess. But
we've won.
Either way, that's.
So I put the bolly. I put the bolly in the fridge on the quiet, tempting fate, and. In about 10 minutes, I'm going to open it.
All right. In that case, thank you very much for watching.
Glass now, so
please,
Prosecco.
Please like, subscribe. Oh, why Prosecco? Why not some English sparkling?
Man, get off
it's my choice as a consumer, HH. Come on, back me up here.
Absolutely.
Of course it's your choice, but why are you not choosing British goods?
We're going to have British home store slapped.
There's nothing wrong with being European and a Brexiteer, which is,
Are you a Brexiteer again now, Joel? Okay.
Always have been, mate. just like you wanted to have left a year ago, which you did not want to do. So, but now I'm very.
I did want to leave a year ago. That's why we didn't accept May's deal.
Right,
anyway.
good.
Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, retweet. And it's been fun. Cheers, guys.
Right.
Bye.
Right, come on. Remember, Brent side of Hampstead and Kilburn.
Camden side of Hampstead and Kilburn. Thank you.
And, I don't know, somewhere in,
Hammersmith.
A Botterbat or something, I don't know.
All right.
A Botterpad.
I hate you all.
Who's got the TV on or something?
All right, hang on.
I'm sorry, but I couldn't.
No, it's really annoying. I thought it was ethnic tunes or something.
No, I'm in a really quiet room. It's not coming from my.
I thought...
That's a different kind of ethnicity we're talking about.